Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to our Sunday celebration for the Center for Spiritual Living, Space Coast in Melbourne, Florida. And as usual, like to begin our celebration with my beautiful wife Becky, who's a practitioner emeritus, opening us with a reading from the book This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes.
So I just invite everyone to turn within, to close your eyes, to take in some deep breaths, and just relax. I know that the law of God surrounds me with love and friendship. I permit this love and friendship to flow out to all things, to all people everywhere. I let it radiate in my environment, bless everything I touch, make whole that which is weak, turn fear into faith, and accomplish the miracle of healing through love. Whatsoever things are good and true, I shall think upon. This I shall remember, that the Spirit is not far off. I shall remind myself that I live in the divine presence, that my affairs are in the keeping of the internal mind. I live, move, and have my being in wholeness. Peace, poise, and power belong to my kingdom. I give joy and love to all, knowing that the gift of life is not to me alone. I share my good. I welcome the opportunity to love fully, completely, and joyfully. I believe in myself because I believe in God. I accept life fully, completely, without reservation, holding to the conviction that good is the eternal reality, that God is the everlasting presence, that Christ within me is the eternal guide, that my life is complete today. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Becky. So this morning, I want to speak on friendship. And I want to begin with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who wrote, "Think of the whole world as your friend, but you must also be a friend to the whole world." You know, in this time of uncertainty, I think that friendship has never been more important. We all crave connection. So many of you know, every Tuesday from 2 to 3:30, Becky and I and Reverend Jenna hold a Zoom call for anybody, really, mostly for our congregation, but anybody is welcome. And we try to talk about our joys, how we're doing, if we have any issues. And a couple of weeks ago on Tuesday, I asked everybody on the call, what do you miss the most? And what is the first thing you'd like to do when life gets back to normal, whatever that will be? And the two most prominent answers I got were hugs and having a meal with a friend. That's what I mean about all of us craving community. A week or so ago, I put something on Facebook that I'd like to share with you now. It's titled My Oath to You, and it's written by I'm Just Being Me. When you are sad, I will dry your eyes. When you are scared, I will comfort your fears. When you are worried, I will give you hope. When you are confused, I will help you cope. And when you are lost and can't see the light, I shall be your beacon, shining ever so bright. This is my oath, I pledge till the end. Why, you may ask? Because you are my friend. Isn't that beautiful? So, connecting with others gives us a sense of oneness. I read a blog by a group called Help Guide, and there were a number of people that contributed to this. And one of the things that they said is that research shows that friendship is more important to our psychological growth than even romantic relationships. Friendship, good friends, help us to relieve stress. They provide comfort and joy to us. They help us move beyond loneliness and isolation. And some other benefits of good friends are they help us elevate our mood. They help us reach our goals by being there with us and encouraging and supporting us. They help us cope with illness. They help us cope with job loss. They help us cope with the loss of a loved one. You know, as you'll see, preparing this message really got me to go deep into what some of my friendships have meant to me. And one of the things I remember, my closest friend from college is named Tommy, was named Tommy. He has since made his transition. But one day when my ex-wife and I were separating, on a Wednesday night, Tommy called me and I told him what was going on. I lived in Maine, Tommy lived in Connecticut. He said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Tommy, nothing." He said, "I'll be there." Friday night, Tommy came to my house and we spent the entire weekend, he listening to me and him just encouraging me and letting me know I wasn't alone. And at the same time, another one of my friends said to me, "Don't worry about this, Ron. We'll get through this." Not you'll get through this. We'll get through this. What a difference that made in my life. You know, when we're developing new friendships, what we need to look at is how they make us feel. So you can ask yourself, how do I feel spending time with this person? Am I being myself with this person? Is this person supportive of me? Is this the kind of person I can trust? And to be a friend, we have to be willing to let ourselves be known, to be vulnerable, lean on a friend. It builds closeness. What do I mean? Ask a friend to take you to the doctor, give you a drive to the doctor. Ask a friend to help you plan a party or something that you're doing. They all provide, any opportunity like this provides an opportunity for greater bonding. I read an article from the Mayo Clinic, and they were saying in this article it's difficult to develop or to keep friendships nowadays. And why is that so? Because, you know, as we grow and we have a family, we have other priorities, like taking care of our children, like our job, and our interests change. And people are very mobile nowadays, so either you or a friend moves away. But remember, the important point to remember is it's quality. It's the quality of the friendship, not the quantity of friends that you have. So we want to nurture the friends that we have and know that we're there for each other through thick and thin. So I want to read something to you. Years ago, I took a writing class, and we were asked to write on our attachment to objects. And when I went through it, I started to write about all the objects in my life I thought I was attached to. And at the time of the writing, I didn't have any of them in my life anymore. And so this article started to change. And let me read you a piece of it. The phone rings. It's my friend Corky Gallagher. We have known one another for at least 20 years. He's a great guy. Something's not right with the tone of his voice. "What's up?" I say. You don't sound good. I have cancer, he says. I'm having major surgery next week. I called to ask for prayers. I'm stunned. We talk for a while, and as we're about to end the conversation, I say something I felt for a long time, but have never verbalized. I love you, Corky. I love you too, Ron. We hang up. So I want to read you a couple of more paragraphs from here. So, what matters? Becky matters. Corky and my other friends matter. My children matter. A sunset matters. Love matters. A good meal with friends matters. It isn't fun to contemplate, but I have many more yesterdays than I will tomorrows. And what matters is how I live my life, the legacy I will leave behind. The things I thought were important have come and gone, but touching people, being compassionate, trying to be a better person every day is what matters most now. The stuff I can live without. What I can't live without is the recognition that I am connected to all life. I am here to be a beneficial presence, to touch, to be a conduit for healing. One more paragraph. Daniel Nahmod wrote a song titled Last Song. Here are a few of the lyrics. Is the world a little more peaceful? Is humankind a little wiser about the good that we can do? Have I given hope to the hopeless? Has a child stood a little bit taller because of something I have said? Have I eased a little pain? If so, then I'm glad I came. At this point in my life, all of that is so much more important than any possession I might own. I'd like to think that's what spiritual growth is all about. We need to nurture our friendships. Be kind. Listen. Ask what's going on in somebody else's life. Open up about yourself. Make yourself available. I want to talk to you again about being kind. So years ago, when I lived in Pennsylvania, I played racquetball. And there were 3 of us, and we would play each other every other week. And one week, I was playing my friend Tony, who was a neighbor, and I had on a yellow shirt and red pants, and you'll see why that's important in a minute. And Tony and I get on the racquetball court, and let me just tell you this. We were very close in our ability, but he would always beat me by a couple of points. Well, this particular Saturday, Tony was serving. I looked around to see where the ball was, and the ball hit me square in my face. It hit me so hard, it literally knocked knocked my glasses off, but it knocked the lens out of my glasses, cut my nose, and I had a big cut above my eye. I go and I put the lens back, and Tony says, we got to go home. And I said, Tony, I'm winning. I'm okay. We can finish this game. And so we keep playing, and I'm bleeding. So I keep wiping my face with my yellow shirt. And I mention it because at the end of the game, my shirt was almost as red as my shorts, and I won. 2 weeks later, I go to pick up Tony, and he gets in my car, and I said to him, I got you now, Tony. I beat you the last time we played. I'm going to beat you again. I got through my mental issues. And he said, Ron, pull the car back in. And I back up and park the car again. And he said to me, you didn't beat me last time. And I said, Tony, you threw that game? And he said, I didn't throw it. He said, Ron, I like you so much. You're my best friend maybe in the whole world. Seeing that blood coming down, he said, I came so close to throwing up twice because somebody I really cared about was in so much pain. And to me, it stopped being about the game and it began being about you. We just sat there in silence for a few minutes after he said that to me. And I'll just say that bit of kindness, that bit of caring and compassion solidified our friendship and took it deeper than it had ever been. That's what I mean by being a friend and by being kind. Dan Buettner is somebody who writes about, and I guess he discovered the 5 blue zones. If you're not familiar with the blue zones, they're regions around the world where people live much longer and much healthier than people in other areas of the world. Now, some of the reasons are about nutrition. In fact, he has cookbooks out and books about this. But other reasons are because people live in a community and they put their loved ones first. And one of the examples that he gives is people in Nicoya, Costa Rica. They've done some kind of surveys, and these people have the largest number of people enjoying their day than any other place in the world. And you ask why, and the answer is because they enjoy it together. They value social connection above everything else. I read a blog by a fellow named Rick Hansen this week, and he has an interesting idea. He says that in today's world, many of our interactions have a bumper car quality. He says at work, at home, on the phone, in emails, we bounce off each other while we exchange information. How often do we get a sense of what's inside of each other? So how can we see the good that's in other people? Well, one of the ways is we can slow down. We can spend time being curious about what the good qualities are in another person. We can see positive intentions. Try to see the good intentions of our friends and the people in our life. And perhaps most importantly, we can remember that the good intentions we see in others, we have in ourselves. Because if they weren't internally with us, we wouldn't be able to see them in other people. So let me tell you a heartwarming story that I read this week. It's about a woman who was dating a man who had a couple of children and whose first wife had died after a long, painful battle with cancer. They had this great relationship, and one day she noticed a lump in her breast. And initially she wasn't concerned, but then it came back that it was malignant. And she thought to herself, I can't put him and his children through this again. So she called him up and she broke up with him without telling him why. But he was persistent. He kept writing her and calling her. And finally, she agreed to meet with him. And when she did, she told him why. And he looked at her and he said, "You have cancer?" And he started to laugh. He said, "You have cancer? We can do cancer. We know how to do cancer. I thought you didn't love me anymore." Loving was more important to him. Loving and being loved was more important than whatever was going on with her. Being together was what was important. The writer Stephanie Dowrick wrote, "No matter how powerless or insignificant you may feel on a particular day, you affect everyone you come into contact with. The only question is, how are you affecting them? Are they encouraged or discouraged by how you're treating them? Are you lifting their spirits or are you driving them crazy? Are they better off or worse off for knowing you? I want to tell you another story. A Hasidic rabbi asks his students, how can you tell when night has ended and day begun? One student raises his hand and said, I know when you look off in the distance and you see an animal and you can tell if it's either a dog or a wolf. And the rabbi says, no. Another student raises his hand and says, I know when you look off in the distance and see a tree, you can tell if it's a fig tree or a peach tree. And the rabbi says, nope. And so frustrated, one of the students says, you tell us. And the rabbi says, when you can look into the eyes of any man or woman and see that they are your sister or your brother. Until then, it is nighttime. This is the time now when so many of us are hurting and confused and feeling lonely, that story to me has such relevance. We know now and we see now we are brothers and sisters going through the same issues in life and all needing the love, the kindness, and the caring of a friend. So I know it can be difficult to meet new people in this time. Not necessarily now because we can't go out, but when we can get back together, how can we meet people? How can we develop relationships? Well, here are a couple of ideas. We can attend community events. Find a group that you resonate with and go attend some of their events. We can volunteer at a hospital, at a museum, at a church. Becky and I were talking this week when we first started at a church in Seal Beach, California. After we were going there about 3 weeks, the minister came up to us and said, how would you like to be our greeters for the next month? We said yes, and by the end of the next month, we knew every single person in that center and felt right at home. What else can we do? We can invite somebody for a cup of coffee or to have lunch. We can take a class. And one of the other things we can do, we can take a walk with our pets or our children. I know when Becky and I moved to San Clemente, we had a dog. And the way we met all our neighbors, every time we took our dog for a walk, everybody said, oh, we could pet the dog. Could we pet the dog? And soon we knew everybody. They didn't care about us as much as they cared about our dog. And I think what I really want to say, whatever you do, let people know you care. We can do that even now. We can call somebody. We can send a card. We can email them or we can Zoom them. Let people know you are loved. I want to close with something from a Jewish prayer book. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us. Even when we are hidden from ourselves, we are touched by fingers that soothe us. Even when we are too proud for soothing, we are counseled by voices that guide us. Even when we are too embittered to hear, we are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by unending love, embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. God bless you. I love you. Have a wonderful week. And I hope to see all of you on Tuesday